was that? Oh,
Welcome to another episode of Paranormal, the New Normal. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy, here trying to make the world seem a little more normal, but these days that's not easy to do, and we might do that today, we might not. I really don't. I don't know. I just don't know. But joining me today to try and help me with this is my guest, Seth Eliot Santoro, psychic, author, and so much more, but we're going to get into all that in a bit. But first things first, how you doing tonight, Seth?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
Can't complain. Hard day at work, but after a hard day at work, you always feel good because you feel like you did something. So,
This is true. This is true.
so let me first start off with the question I ask everybody on this show:
Okay.
what got you into the paranormal or the spiritual? Like, what got you into it?
Hmm. I mean, my entire life, I always wanted to see ghosts. I had a couple near ghost experiences, and then I started watching John Edwards, and I was like, oh my God, look what he does. And he talks to dead people, and that's so cool. And then I saw um, Sixth Sense, and that blew my mind. And I was like, I know exactly where I was. I was sitting in the Chelsea cinemas, which is no longer in New York City. And like, I remember I was thinking to myself, I want that life. Like, I want that to be my life. But little did I know it would take about 20 years from that moment. No, about 15 years from that moment. So I was like 16, 17 when I saw that. Um, and
Yeah,
I think throughout my 20s, I had lots of experiences with five of my own friends passed away. Like, I just really had a lot of experiences with death and with the just pretending that I could talk to them. And then it finally, when I was in my early 30s, I came out with my first book, and I literally feel like I broke a pattern of dating unavailable individuals. And I woke up and I was like, I deserve so much better than you. And then the universe the next day was like, boom, you're ready now. And and that's when I literally could not even stop the voices and the or not the voices, but the I would be sitting with anyone and I would just hear so much information about them and their deceased loved ones. And since then, it's been a very fascinating kind of adventure.
sounds like it. I mean, that's that's interesting that the universe just wait to that exact moment to start it all. I
Right.
hear so many I hear so many stories like from birth like I was able to do this. Never is it like the universe chose this moment to Shazam me and give me the ability. But
You're right.
so
Even my husband, he his whole life he's been into it. But me, also, I didn't know that all mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums. So I didn't know that I could do other stuff, and then I got into psychic work, and then I got into energy healing, and then I got into baby readings, and then it's just and even more energy healing. So it's like every couple of years I got a new gift that I didn't know that I had before. So I'm very grateful. But it's crazy. It's a crazy ride.
it seems like it. And you kind of answered this somewhat already, but
Okay.
my second question always is, have you had any experiences with ghosts, spirits, aliens, cryptids, take your pick. But
Yeah, all of the above. No, most of the above. Um, Definitely ghosts, definitely spirits. I don't see, my husband sees, but I've only seen a couple like spirits that I've been speaking with during a couple readings, and that was very specific. For example, I looked, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw this guy standing against this wall and in a very specific position. And I described him and what he was wearing, and then the person across from me started crying. She looked at her phone and she like showed me the picture of him in that exact position. It was the last picture she took of him before he passed. I was like, oh, like goosebumps, even now. Um, and spirit guides, I believe in. Aliens, I mean, my husband has an alien guide, and I can feel when he's around, um, or it's more masculine, so I'm just going to say he. But he's very tiny and
Yeah.
small. And I've also had some not so fun experiences as well. Just a couple that scared me to death. No pun intended.
A any of those you'd be willing to talk about, or do you
Yeah.
prefer not to?
No, no, sure. This is more with kind of, I wouldn't say demonic spirits, but let's just say not good, positive spirits. Um,
Yeah.
I was obsessed with Ouija board for a couple of years in my early 20s with like after college roommates, and everyone was stoned except for me, and we were we just started getting really good at it. And whenever I was on the board, it just seemed like I knew a lot. And we somehow let this spirit in, and I don't know how it got in, but obviously the board is some type of conduit. And by the way, I was very accurate. Like I now realize that that was my first kind of playings with mediumship, because what I did on the board now would be considered mediumship if without the board, though, right? So anyway,
Yeah.
so we get in the we start we all of a sudden we stop doing the Ouija for some reason, and then we all start hearing our names being called at different parts of the house, and no one spoke about it for weeks. And finally, I was like, "Hey, do you guys ever hear your name being called?" And both of them were like, "Yes," and they were both women. So um, we were all sitting one night. It was after Halloween, and we had this huge bowl of candy on the top of our fridge, a huge, huge bowl. And we were all in one part of the house. And the next thing we knew, we heard this huge crash, and we look, and the bowl is perfectly upside down with all of the candies wrapped, like, all of it. Nothing spilled anywhere else. It was just perfectly there. And then about 2 weeks later, I had the scariest experience of my life to this day, really. Um, I was just about to sleep with my boyfriend at the time, and I know I was awake though. So I know I was awake. And I started reading about like mediumship, and I read, you should ask the ghosts or spirits if you can help them. So I heard my name being called right before I fell asleep, and then I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna get through this. It's gonna be okay." And I know that I was holding the hand of my husband, or my boyfriend at the time. That was because he had just gone to sleep, and I say, "How can I help you?" And nothing. And I'm like, "How can I help you? I want to help you." And then this little voice, I don't know if it would be a little person nowadays, but this little voice, or a dwarf, said, "You can't help me. You can't help me. You can't help me. You can't help me. You can't help me," like 20 times in a row. And like everything about me, I was like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And then he says to me, "Don't worry, because Orlin, my boyfriend at the time, can't feel his face either." And then my whole entire body went numb.
Ooh.
And I know it was, and I squeezed that, or I thought I squeezed the hand of my boyfriend at the time, because that's the only thing I could do. And I then realized, okay, well, if I can't help you, then you got to go. So I said, "If I can't help you, then get the F out of my house." And boom, like everything left. I could move. And I woke up and I was like, and Orlin doesn't remember anything. Like the next day, nothing. So I know there was something at play there, like not
Yeah.
good and benevolent.
Not a Casper. Not a Casper.
Not a Casper.
That's the way I like to put it. It's not a Casper. It's one of his
Right.
brothers. But
Yes. Yes.
so on your profile, it said you were a life and death expert,
Okay.
and like the way it seemed, like why do you love? I mean, I personally do as well to a degree, but well, I'll just ask it. Why do you love death so much? I mean, I do. I find death beautiful in some ways, and I find that it's life. It's a cycle. That's personally why I am not like. I've never cried at a funeral in my life because I don't see death as a bad thing. I see it as what is meant to be and what's there. But why do you love it?
It's the one topic. There's only a couple topics that I could talk about for the rest of my life only, and that is one of the topics. I just love everything about it. I think that like you, I feel like it's just a passing in or a transition into another space. Um, I I think that if you've ever seen the movie What Dreams May Come, I feel like somehow we get to choose what we want in our beautiful heaven afterwards. I think it's so much better no matter what. It's so much better than this place. And the hundreds, maybe even thousands of spirits that I've spoken to over the past 10, 12 years, they all, or most of them, confirm that it's like it's undescribable and it's so much better than we humans can even conceive of. Um, so I'm fascinated. I'm also a little terrified about it, but I know that at the end, I will resign. I believe that people resign to die, like they surrender to death, unless you're in a car accident or it's heart attack. But I believe that most people surrender when they're ready to death. There's just so much to talk about, like, and people don't talk about it, and that's why I love it too, because I want to dispel the taboo around death, because it's the only thing we can count on. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna get rid of taxes anytime soon, but like, you're gonna die. We don't know if we're always gonna pay taxes, but we know we're gonna
Oh, there's no doubt we're always going to pay taxes. I mean,
die.
come on, man, come on. But
Unless there's like
that's
a
just the
zombie apocalypse or something, which I'm so ready for. Um, yeah.
me too. I'm robbing everybody's weed and just chilling at home. Smoke sleep, smoke sleep. But yeah,
Yeah, I just think I just want to talk about it all the time, and I really want to help people. It's lost, right? And when I help people heal, and most people, well, everyone I know is affected by death. So there's a commonality and there's universalness to it that is beautiful, and it's something we all experience, and it's something we're all going to go through. Um, yeah.
exactly. I mean, that's what I mean. Every family member, I haven't had many family members die that I was close to, but the ones that have died, like it's always just like it was their time. It felt like it
Mhm.
just felt like yes, I've known about some in the past that before I was born that were taken unexpectedly as teenagers or something like that, and it's sad, but something had a plan for them, and it might just got either the plan got interrupted or that was the plan. Who knows? I wasn't around then to figure things out. So, but that's my personal belief. I mean, death to
Yeah.
me is just part of nature. I don't get sad when things die. I mean, of course, if it's a pet or something, then of course it's sad, but it's not going to break me.
Right.
It's not going to break me.
Right. I I mean, for me, it's a loss, right? And animals can be just as, if not more, painful than humans in my line of work. Um, it's funny though, I've noticed that when I'm doing a reading for an animal versus a human, there's so much more fun and curiosity about the animal, because they say the most amazing things, and they say, like, they make it light, whereas humans carry a lot of weight. I mean, I believe that when we die, we get rid of like 98% of our 90% of our emotional baggage and 100% of our physical baggage. So, but it's always heavy for both sides sometimes, and not always, but it can be very heavy. So I love doing animal readings, because everyone's like so excited to hear from, from Frankie or from Gracie or anyway.
Interesting. I mean, I just actually had an 18-week-old puppy that died back in September because of born with kidney issues. But
Mm,
so yeah, it was horrible. My kids and wife were so devastated, but it's just the way it is sometimes. And he was not meant to live. That's all it was. I mean, he was born that way.
yeah.
So, but and you're actually the second person I talked to in the last few weeks that talks to animals, and it's amazing because I never talked to anybody before to you that talked to
No,
animals,
no way.
and now it's like two in a row. I'm like, what?
Maybe there's something there.
But oh, I mean, but do you talk? Do you just talk to passed on animals, or do you talk to, or can you communicate with live ones too? In a way.
I do communicate with live ones,
Oh, okay.
but more so passed on. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
it- yeah. She actually reads live ones as like a job almost. Like the title of the episode, which doesn't release till January, is actually the new a modern day Doctor Doolittle. But
Oh, awesome. I love it. I love
yeah,
it.
I try to come up with good ones sometimes. But
No, I love it. I love it. it just so happens with mediumship when I'm doing readings for people, it just kind of happens that their animal also will come through, right? However, one time I was doing a intuitive reading on this girl, and I literally was like, "Hey, I need to tell you something from your dog." And she's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah," because animal readings are new to me too. So at this point, this was like 2 or 3 years ago, and I hadn't done many animal readings. So I was like, your dog wants to say, can you separate out the water and the food dish? Like, and it's really low, and he's a small dog, so I think you should get one of those things where, like, it separates them out a little bit because I think he gets the food and the water, right? And she's like, "Yeah." And I get so mad, I leave it for a couple of days, and I was like, "Yeah, that's not cool. Like, that's not cool at all." And she was like, "How did you know that?" And I was like, your dog's telling me right now." She's like, "I didn't know you could do dog readings." I was like, "I didn't know either." So anyway, there you go. That's an example.
Yeah, that's now, is it only like, have you only done, like, dogs and cats, or have you gone to more, like, exotic animals too?
I actually once I was doing a reading and I knew I was a pet and I knew I had a taste for rats and mice, and I knew that I was super low to the ground. And I said literally, I think I used the name Frankie, but I was like, "Who's Frankie?" Like, I feel like I'm Frankie and I'm really low to the ground. I explain everything. And they're like, "Oh my God, it's our pet snake. Frankie was our pet snake." And I was like, "You mean I'm connecting with a snake right now?" Um, I've also connected with cheetahs in Africa, South Africa. My husband is South African.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was one of the most amazing things. Can I tell you the story?
Oh, please, but you gotta ask?
It's great. No, it's a good story. Um, I feel like I'm I was at this cheetah experience place. You can literally go on Instagram to the cheetah experience, and they've moved since, but it was near the town of or the city of Bloemfontein. And we went on this tour, and we thought we would be able to pet animals. This was a rehabilitation center, by the way. So what they do is they take cheetahs that have been either abandoned or that are they found in the wild that are alone, and they take them and they rehabilitate them, and then they eventually let them go back into they train them on how to you know hunt their food and seek shelter and all that stuff. So we went on this tour, and I was so like, whatever. I mean, there were beautiful cats and beautiful, all sorts of. There was a puma. There was a black. Well, there is no such thing as a black panther, but there's a black puma there, or a black leopard there, and I could tell he had something wrong with his back, the back of his right hind leg. I knew it, and at some point we were taking a break, and we were watching some animals in another pasture somewhere, and the owner comes up, and she was asking where everyone's from, and everyone was from South Africa except for me, and I she just took a fascinating kind of eye to me, and I was like, so we started talking, and I said, I just want you to know the black leopard, there's something wrong with his back right leg, and she's like, how could you know that? And I was like, was he limping? I was like, no, I could just tell that it's either arthritic or there was something removed there recently. And she's like, oh my God, like last month, something was removed. She's like, you can read animals? And I was like, yes. And then she literally she's like, you go ahead with the tour to everyone else. And then my husband and I and our friend, we stayed. She's like, you three stay with me. So she took us back into the real rehabilitation center part, and we got to like see baby cheetahs. We got to like, and then she's like,
Ooh.
I want you to read Mary for me. And I'm like, who's Mary? She's like, you'll see. So we get to literally go into it's a huge enclosure, and we're with a handler, and I looked at the handler. I'm like, how is this okay? Like, how am she not going to attack me? And he looked at me and he's like, she knows she could just kill you with one. She knows she could kill you easily. I'm like, really? So she's not scared of us? And she said, no, she's not scared of you. And plus, she's been around humans her entire life, so she feels a little bit more comfortable with humans. And anyway,
Yeah.
so we're literally sitting there, and then he's like, okay, you can pet her now. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? So my husband goes first because I was a little scaredy cat, no pun intended. And then she started purring, and it was like the most beautiful, like, purring sound. It was so loud, and then I started petting her. I didn't get too close, but, sh and so we started reading her, and essentially, we were there for like 15, 20 minutes. It was amazing. One of the most amazing experiences of my life. And so afterwards, I went to the owner was like, okay, what's the deal with Mary? And I said, she said to me, she has far less days ahead than she does behind. Just like that. And I was like, she's so wise. And I told her how old she was. She said yes. She confirmed it. And then I said, there's something going on. And there's a cancer going on. And she said yes. And I was like, and I pinpointed where it was, and she said yes. And my husband got the same things. And long story short, we spoke about Mary, and then all of a sudden, this other cheetah came to me, like a deceased cheetah came to me, and I was like, "There's someone else here who wants to talk to you." And I feel like she was like 19 or 20 when she passed, and I was like, her name was blah blah blah, and she's like, "Oh my god!" She starts crying and bawling, and so I then give her a reading on this deceased cheetah that was her pet. Well, not her pet, but like one of her animals, right? For like 17 years or something. It was ridiculous. And so ever since then, I'm like, okay, yeah, I can read animals.
Huh, that's amazing. That's amazing. As much I'm a lover of animals. I've been to so many zoos, and like to be able to actually understand animals would be amazing. Like just amazing. But you keep saying your husband also is a psychic, and I'm like, that's got to be strange. Two psychics living together. I never heard of that before. Even like,
No, it's a married mediums is like a TV show. That idea that they keep trying to push down our like they want us to do it. It's it's an adventure. I'm not gonna lie. Like he sees, right, and he gets really scared. But the funny part is he makes the same sound whether he sees like a small little spider or he sees a ghost in the house. So like he literally will do like a and I'll be like human or insect. and like and that's kind of our biggest joke together is like human or insect because I don't know which he makes the same sound for both. It's intense. There's a lot of energies always between us, and like you would think that that would help our communication, but sometimes we believe that we know what the other one is thinking, so it kind of makes it more challenging to communicate at
can
times.
can either of you actually read each other or no?
I think just like married people, right? I think that
Oh,
like
okay.
I don't think it's
Not like in a psychic
not like
way.
no, I think we're way too close to each other. Like he'll feel things about what I'm going through or about someone else in my sphere. And I will do the same for him. But it's I think we're because we're so interlinked. Like I can't read for myself, which I wish I could. Um,
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, we all want that ability. That's the ability. That's why everybody wants to be a psychic is to be able to read people's minds for themselves. But I mean, it would have made the dating world a lot easier. I'll say that at least. But I mean, come on.
seriously, seriously. And
But
that's always a fun one too. Dating as a medium was
oh,
not fun. Was not fun at all. Because as soon as they find out, they're like, "Tell me about my dad, or tell me about my cousin," and or they'd be like, "I don't believe in that stuff," and I'm like, "Okay, date over." It was tough.
yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I could imagine. I've been through similar situations with different things other than being a psychic, and it's just yeah. Like as soon as they find out one thing about you, it's just like yeah, no. I mean, hell, I've had the same thing happen with being a smoker. So it's like smoking's bad. I'm like, and your point? Why you down your freaking margarita or whatever? Like, yeah. But kind of curious though, because it said on your page you're a smileologist, which what the heck is a smileologist?
Yeah, I did not self-coin that phrase, by the way. Like I am embracing that, but one of my clients, essentially, my vision is to inspire the world to heal and smile from the inside. That's my vision, and I help people heal from loss, and I helped him essentially find his smile again, and so he started calling me a smileologist, and I was like, "All right." Like, it kinda works. No one really knows what it is, so, you know,
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
it's a
it's one of those like, well, I've been called worse moments. It's like,
But I like it. I kinda like it sometimes. Yeah. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I'm like, "What the heck is that?"
I guess
I'm like, I could
I study how to make people smile, or how do people find their smiles again, right? That would be smileology.
which I makes sense, honestly. I mean, a smile I knew it had something to do with making people smile, but I was just like, "How do you do that unless you're finding, like, them the lottery numbers?" But yeah, so, I mean, that's just where my mind went when I saw it, but I had
I
I had to ask about it. I had to.
Oh,
Like,
of course. All
just
good.
it's just one of those things, but
I think that
so
everyone wants to win the lottery, right? But I feel like it's more fulfilling. Um, there's just something to helping people find their smile again that is like why one of the reasons why I know that I'm put on this earth to do, you know?
yeah, which I mean, as a podcaster, I kinda relate to that 'cause I have multiple shows and that's the point of them is to make people get something out of it. Either whether they learn something, whether I make them laugh, like, make them smile when they laugh, like, whatever. It's just that's why I do it is because for people. I'm not doing it for myself because it takes my time. That's all it does.
Sure.
I mean, I do enjoy the hell out of it. I enjoy the hell out of it, don't get me wrong,
Love
but
it.
it's just, you know, I wanna make people happy. I wanna make people give them something to listen to and to entertain them, so it
Yeah.
works, I believe. And the numbers don't lie either, so it works apparently, but so what let me ask you this, because I asked every psychic slash medium that's been on my show about this.
Okay.
I've been told by a lot that there's been a spiritual awakening in the last, well, 10 to 5 years. Some people I hear a lot of 5 years ago, and I hear a lot of 2012. So, the question mainly is, like, do you think there's been a spiritual awakening on Earth in that time period?
I feel like there have been several, because to be honest, both my husband and I in 2012, that's when the shifts happened. I mean, to propel us into this,
Yeah.
doing this full time or most of the time, um, as a career. And I feel like, so I feel like there have been several, and I feel like 2020 was a huge shift for all of us. Hopefully, for us to feel more compelled to to feel fulfilled, because after being trapped at home, like everyone in the world, and I love that everyone in the world can relate to that in some way, shape, or form, right? So we all went through this extreme trauma, really, like that, but everyone had their own unique individual kind of experience of that trauma. So I feel like that has, I mean, so many people have moved out of cities or moved into cities or moved out of the country, moved into different, moved out into different jobs, into they now are pursuing coaching, or, just people realize that life is short and we could be trapped again someday. So you want to do something that you love doing. So I feel like there have been several, but 2012 for sure is definitely a big year.
Yeah, that's I mean, a lot of people and myself think that the Mayan calendar was really counting down to the next awakening on Earth, like the next big awakening, not to the destruction of Earth,
Even though I love that movie.
which oh, 2012, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good movie. It's a good movie, yeah. I forgot about that. I forgot about that movie for a second. Then I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh my God, I
I
love
just,
it.
I mean, it came out in 2012, didn't it? I think, and yeah, I think I saw it in theaters. I'm pretty sure, but I think I'm not positive at that time. But so now I got that movie stuck in my head.
Oh,
But
sorry.
no. It's all good. It's all good. I'm going to watch it again soon. But what was the hardest thing that you had to face? Like, what was the biggest barrier as a psychic that you had to overcome in order to like help somebody? Like, was there anything that really like any forces out there that try to stop you from helping a certain person? Or
That's a really good question. Give me a second. I can tell you that, um, in South Africa, my husband and I have done like some investigative work with some policemen and investigators down there, police people and individuals, and some investigators down there, private investigators. And I can tell you that we did a couple, and one was like this freak accident where a couple people were shot, and I could see everything clearly. Like I literally reenacted it for them, and they said, "Yeah, that's pretty much what happened." Like I didn't even because at first we were in a house, and then they took us to the spot where it happened, and I said, "Okay, so this is what happened," blah blah, and they're like, "Yeah, that's pretty much what happened." So, or we think it's pretty much what happened. So that was interesting. But then an hour and a half later, we're at someone else's house, and it was a horrible. There's a lot of South African murders from black people to white people or toward white people, and I had a block for like literally for 30 minutes. I couldn't see anything. Thank God my husband is really good at this. Um, and it was also mostly in Afrikaans. So, but it was really it was really scary for me because I'm like, what is going on? Like, why can't I see what happened? And then finally, I kind of tapped in, if you will, to what my husband was seeing, and then it started becoming clearer. So I don't know what that was, but again, I'm not. There's only been one person, and I cried after the reading that I couldn't read, like one person, um, and and I so I get very nervous when I can't read someone. But apparently, all my psychic friends are like, "Really, just one? Are you kidding?" Like, there's a lot of people that I've had to say, "Yeah, I'm giving your money back," and I'm like, "Really? I have never, except for this one." Anyway, so and I think that was, and I know why that was. It was just something like he was a healer himself and an astrologer,
Okay.
but he was tricked or somehow he was up doing a dare or something. Like there was a whole story behind it. And I, I need people's permission. Like I need your permission if I'm going to
Of
read
course,
you.
yeah.
And I don't think I had his. And I don't think I had the Afrikaans families either until I kind of went through my husband. Um, Other than that, like I've done some crazy things. Like I've stopped like dark forces. In every country they have like Macumba or um, that's in Brazil. In the Creole, Haiti, all that stuff, they have voodoo, right? So like I've taken
Yeah.
curses off of people before as well.
Ooh.
That's been interesting. Like when someone's sending bad energy, you know, so kind of like in The Craft, which I love that movie too, back in the day.
Classic.
Like totally, I literally bound that person from doing harm to the person who asked me, right, who's a friend of mine. So and it worked. Um, yeah, it's a crazy world. As you're asking these questions, I
It,
keep realizing.
it's all good. And yeah, it is a crazy world. I mean, I've I actually talked to a ministry member from who went to Dominican Republic and Haiti, and she ended up adopting like 13 or 14 Haitian kids, or like a huge number. And the story she tells about like healing people of voodoo and demonic possession down there is ridiculous. Like, so do you and your husband just travel all over the world to do this type of jobs or to help people?
Not yet. Hopefully someday in the future. There's a couple TV show ideas about like us doing like human and animal readings around the world. Um, but right now we do it where we can. It just so happened that he's from South Africa, so we got to travel all around South Africa. And you we can't get away from this. This is something that is part of us. So sometimes we're sitting in whatever country or whatever city, and sometimes we just feel compelled to say things, which is always kind of scary at first, but um, so it can happen anywhere, and he has a harder time turning it off than I do. Um, so
Interesting. Which
yeah.
that's, I mean, hell, if they do a show about you, I definitely would watch it. You seem like a very fun person to watch, and
Thanks.
I mean, I am all for a couple of psychics like that are married and living together. Like that would be an amazing show.
It's definitely,
I could.
yeah, it's definitely an adventure. That's why I say every day is an adventure in this house, for sure.
Yeah, it is for me too, but that's because I have two big mastiffs and two kids, and that every day is like God knows what the hell's going to happen today, or what I'm going to have to clean up. More like what I'm going to have to clean up today, but you know.
Right, 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 right.
So I realized we talked about death, but I never asked you this question.
Okay.
What do you think happens when we die? Like, from your experience, what actually happens after we die?
So 95% of me, 96, 97% of me believes one way, and then there's like a 3% that believes in the nothingness, right? So that's only 3%. But in everyone I've spoken to, and across, like, that has crossed over, even animals, it's a better place. So I feel like you resign to die unless you're dying in a tragic car accident or something quickly. Um, and I think that you open your eyes and you see the people who meant the most to you, as an easy buffer. Like, okay, here you are. And then if you're seeing that person, you're like, oh shit, I must be dead, you know? And you get greeted by your favorite pets or animals or what have you. But I feel like those people help you into the next, they tell you like what happens next, you know,
Hmm.
which is, I think you do some type of review. I don't think it's like, you can call it, most people call it a life review, but I think that you take all the lessons and put them somewhere in your soul or something. And then I think after that, I think you move on and you can either, I believe, you either get to work, because I think that when I've spoken to people, I know that there's lots of people that, or there's a couple people that I know that work with children as they cross over, helping them figure out what's going on. So I know that there are quote unquote jobs in that realm of some sort. They don't pay you, but I also think it's I also think it's like better than the greatest heaven that we could think about. So if you want to have pink donuts every day and not gain a pound, then you can have pink donuts every day and not gain a pound. And I think there's a part of that. And then I also think there's like the infinite beings, right? So you not only get to connect with anyone you want, I just feel like you get to watch as well people back here. And I believe that there's spirit guides, and believe that there's spirit family. So I believe that the spirit family are people that you know and loved in life, and you can choose to do that. So I feel like there's so many options afterwards. And I think you ascend, like you evolve, and then eventually you decide to go back or come back. Um, yeah,
I, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, and for years I was a full atheist, and I believed that there was nothing after death. We were just rotted in the ground, and our bones got eaten by bugs. But
right.
my outlook has changed dramatically over the last 5, 10 years. But do you believe in like reincarnation?
In a way, yes. Yeah, I do. I mean, I feel like I'm doing my best to be compassionate every day for all living creatures. But some people, I just feel
Yeah.
like you must have been a cockroach at some point, like in your last life or something. Or maybe you'll be a cockroach in the next life. So I believe that you evolve in the human sense and in the soul evolution sense. So, and I think that you also decide what you want to learn, like the big lessons of your life that you want to learn. So I think that some things are predetermined by us before we go back, and then but most is not.
Yeah, I mean, I am a big believer in reincarnation. I've been told by so many psychics that like they have talked to people that have passed on, and that it's a waiting room up there, and you're just waiting for your chance to come back down, unless
Hmm.
unless you actually have achieved what you're meant to achieve, and then you move on to a greater place. But they didn't
Yeah,
want to call it heaven, of course, because I don't personally like to call it heaven either. I like to call it the beyond, or just a better place. But
yeah. I like the better place. I only say heaven because most people can. I say better than heaven because I think most people understand that I'm not saying heaven. I'm saying a better than. So,
yeah,
but thank you for pointing that out. I will. I know people have connotations and denotations of the word and preconceived notions of the word heaven. So I appreciate that.
I mean, as someone who's brought up religious, I know that like a lot of people are like, "There's no heaven, there's a beyond," but these Christians named it something and ruined it. But
Honestly, I think that this is heaven or hell. Like, I feel like that's what, personally, I feel like that's what Jesus was talking about. Like, you can choose to live in heaven or you can choose to live in hell. And sometimes it's both, here and right now, you know?
it's funny you say that because I believe the same thing. I've I've been told that too, that we are currently living in what is considered hell, and that this is our first test. So,
Quite possibly.
but I mean, who knows? We could be living in a matrix for all we know. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh my God, can Keanu Reeves come and play with us then? Is that, sorry, not you, but for me.
I mean, Keanu's a good-looking man. I ain't gonna lie, but no matter how straight you are, Keanu Reeves and Johnny Depp are just good-looking men. But
They
100%. But I mean, I definitely will take me some Carrie Ann Moss. I ain't gonna say no to that.
Okay,
So,
cool, cool.
but uh, so do you think that there's an underworld? Because if you think there's a beyond, do you think there's actually like some kind of underworld where evil stays?
Um, I I don't I know there's evil. I don't really see it. A lot of people tell me I walk in the light too much, so I don't even see the darkness, but I can feel the darkness. So I know there's some type of evil. I just don't know where it exists, if it's underworld or all around us, or so I don't know the answer to that question. Um, I mean, if Kate Beckinsale comes out, then I'm down, you know, for sure. But yeah, like I don't know. I don't know. I don't I know it's there. I know that something exists where evil is, right? Or where more demonic kind of spirits exist, but I haven't seen it and
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know much about it.
yeah, I mean, even if you don't use the word demon or demonic, because I don't see, it's so hard because like those words have like a buzz to them that like everybody's hears that word and they're like, but I mean, it's just at the end of the day, they might not be called that. Like they might just be underworld creatures. That's what I call them. It's just underworld creatures. Like they're just pure evil beings who they have a purpose. Who knows what it is, but they have a damn purpose, and they're meant to do something, whether it's destroy or if they work for somebody, who the hell knows? Like, really, who, at the end of the day, who knows? But
Yeah, it's
so,
possible. It's totally possible. Absolutely.
but I don't know. I'm a big believer in mythology. Like, I like Greek and Roman and Egyptian, all that mythology. So I like to believe there's multiple things out there like that we can't explain. Like, just not even higher beings, just beings with more abilities that are out there, and they're still out there. I think. I mean, I just that's my personal belief.
No,
But
for sure. I also believe that humans can do way more than they're capable of. I know we can. I know that we call it telekinesis, but I know that people can move things with their. I know there's so much more that we can do in our lives.
yeah, there. I mean, I believe that too. I mean, that's I mean, not to keep boasting about my podcast, but that's kind of why I did the podcast too. I mean, but it's just I don't know. I felt like I needed to do something, and I got into podcasting with another podcast and like with a group of friends, and like this one, they kept saying like you need to do your own show and just do your own thing, and I'm like, and they're like, because you have a good voice and you need to be out there, and I'm like, well, I love the paranormal. Let me do that. But
Nice.
and this just for the last 8 months has grown and it's become a huge part of who I am now. Like it's just
I love it.
and I'm hoping someday I can make, a little financial gain off it. I'm not looking to get like Bezos rich off of it, but still, like, be nice to have a little bit of a supplemental income from it. But someday, maybe someday. I'm not
I'm
trying
hoping
anything,
I'm
but
sending you the best abundance energy ever. Financial abundance, wealth, health, all that stuff.
well, I appreciate it. But before we wrap this up, though,
Yeah. Uh-oh.
let's talk about your books because you've written 3 books. I want to hear what they're about.
Okay, sure. So Smile from the Inside is a 5-step guide to healing from anything in this crazy modern world. That essentially is my first book, bestseller, international bestseller, Amazon bestseller. And it's a book about how to find your smile, really. It's how to find your happiness again. And essentially in it, I posit the SMILE method, which is a 5-step method, and it's for awareness. So I feel like there are 5 steps that we all go through that we spoke about this earlier, that you're going to go through, right? So it's the whole breadth of how to deal with current obstacles, traumas, loss in your life. The second book is, I'm not going in chronological order, but From Grief to Grace. It's the Grace method. It's for how to heal your past once and for all. So it's helping people essentially deal with that loss that they just can't get over, help them to move through that. And again, it's a 5-step method. I also have a children's series. It's called the Smile from the Inside Adventure. And the first one is called Finn and the Ferocious Flu. The second one coming out in March or April. Working out with the illustrator now. We're finalizing the final kind of drawings, illustrations. It'll be called Scout and the Serious Split. Each one it's about healing in a different way. So, and we're going to talk about taboo subjects, and it's going to be LGBTQ focused, most of them, or have an element of LGBTQ in them. And Finn and the Ferocious Flu is about the pandemic and how a family goes through and navigates being trapped together. It's really the coolest thing I've ever done. I mean, I didn't do the illustrations, but man, they're just amazing. And they're so cool. It's just such a cool story, So yeah, lots more to come too. Lots more
Ooh,
books to come.
and to write kids' books too. That's, I mean, anybody that's willing to help kids try to be better people in this day and age and learn how to deal with this world is just, to me, amazing. Because I work in retail, and I like what I did for 5 hours a day was stocking books at like Sam's Club for the Rearling company, and some of these books that come out for kids, I'm just like, why are there 25 Nights at Freddy's books here? They're not teaching kids anything. Like, give them real books. Like, give them. I mean, these are middle school sections. Like, give the middle school kids real books that teach them things, not these horror novels and 5 different hocus pocus books. Like, Jesus, like, give them something that helps them. But yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate hearing that. I think there's a growing market for books about healing and about taboo subjects. I mean, my first one is about the pandemic, right? My second one's about two women getting divorced. The third one is going to be about a transgender child. The fourth one is going to be about a parent dying. Like, they're all going to be very taboo subjects that people don't want to talk about, but it's a beautiful way. And they're all discussion books, right? So at the end, there's like questions, so you can talk about the feelings along the way. The coolest part was when my nephew, like it had come out, I think 2021, and my nephew didn't see it until like a month or two after, and then he saw me and he's like, Uncle Sethy, because that's what they call me. He's like, this is such a good book. He's like, I love this book. And he's like, and it's not just because you're my favorite uncle. He's like, it's because it's a really good book. And I think it's going to help a lot of people. And I was like, start crying. I'm like, oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, that'd probably make me tear up if my nephews, my cousins cousins kids came up to me and been like, your podcast taught me something. I'd be like, no way. But like I would be honored if if anybody in my family actually looked at my podcast and said it was like good. But my family's not a podcast family by any means, so it just doesn't happen. But that's okay. I'll live it. I mean, I keep on keeping on with that because I mean, kids need all the good influences they can get nowadays.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely. And
this world is horrible now. It's just a horrible
it
world
is.
now.
It is. And November is Children's Grief Awareness Month. And not people every year I'm now going to post it all everywhere so that people know. But kids are so susceptible to everything, and they emote and they have feelings, and we need to talk about it with them, and but also they have more resilience than we give them credit for. Like they can, for example, I did personal development workshops, and with adults, it takes them like 3 or 4 days to get over things, right? With kids, it takes them 3 or 4 hours to get over things. Like it's amazing to see that, just how resilient they can be when in the right or appropriate situation.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, kids' resilience is amazing. I mean, I got over when you're a kid, when you're a teenager, even you get over those like little breakups within like hours, and you're like, I'm just gonna go get someone else. You become an adult, and it's like a month of heavy drinking and moping. So yeah, I
It's
mean,
true. It's true.
and that's all I'm gonna say about that, because I mean, we do a lot worse than that in that month, but not to mention the whoring around. But it is what it is. But
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, I applaud anybody who does anything for kids. I've had a 14-year-old author on here who actually wrote 18 books.
No way. That's amazing.
And Shanti Hershenson, she's impressive as hell. A lot of it's sci-fi or horror, but she wrote one book about an anti-bullying book, and because she unfortunately gets bullied, and I mean, it's sad. It's sad because I mean, she's such a good girl, and she wrote all these books since she was a kid, and it's just, if I could have done that when I was a kid, I'd be a millionaire now. And I had the ideas, I just didn't have the talent. But it's just, it amazes me what kids are capable of nowadays that I could never imagine doing when I was a kid, even. But
Yeah. You can do
I
things
mean,
now, though.
exactly, which is what we try to achieve and do. But too low, too late, though. The bank account's already too low at this point. But please tell my listeners where they can find all your stuff, where they can find you, and just promote yourself any way you want before we wrap it up.
Yeah, sure. So you can find me at iamsethelliot.com. And then all my socials are at Seth Eliot Santoro, 1L, 1T, just like it's spelled there. So at Seth Eliot Santoro, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And I have lots of specials actually going on right now for coaching and or for mediumship readings. So check out my Black Friday specials. And yeah, I mean, thank you so much for having me on this podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. I was looking forward to this interview a lot, and
Me
I
too.
just, any psychic or medium, I'm always down to talk to. So, because honestly, they interest me more than like when I started this podcast, I was like originally like I only want people who are into cryptids and can talk about cryptids, and then I started getting some psychics recommended me, mediums recommended me, and I'm like, all right. And then after the first couple interviews, I'm like, oh my god, this is who I want my show, because they are interesting as could be. Like I've had so many now, and I mean, my listeners love it too, because every single one has different stories. Every single one has different beliefs. It's just no one could say that they're all the same thing. Like there's 1,000 different kinds of psychics out there. There's 1,000 different kinds of mediums, and I,
Yeah.
I've loved every single one that's been on my show, and it's been an honor. So,
I should
but as
hook
all
you
my
up.
listeners,
Oops, sorry.
no,
I
no,
was
no,
gonna say I
please go
should hook
ahead.
you up with my husband. He has had a very different like experience and dealt with more evil stuff than I have.
Oh, I'd be down. I'd definitely be down for that conversation.
Nice, nice. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I mean, I'd even be willing to have you on together. I mean, that'd be an interesting enough dynamic as is.
That would be fun. That'd be fun.
But we can always talk about that at a later date. But
Okay.
for all my listeners, you can find me on Facebook as Paranormal the New Normal / Maniacal Music Musings Podcast with an S Facebook group. You can find me on Twitter and the Gram as at Juggalo Bastard, on TikTok as Juggalo Bastard Podcast, and on YouTube as Paranormal the New Normal. I want to thank Seth for coming on once again. It's been an amazing interview, and I can't wait for this episode to release when it comes out in January-ish. So thank you, and I will definitely reach out to you about having your husband on or both of you on. Either way, it works.
Awesome.
And to all my listeners, I will see you in half a week. Have a good one.
Bye.